Well, Kevin, it's great to have you here. I know that given that in Minneapolis right now it's 7 degrees with the wind chill minus 8 degrees, that here in Portland it probably feels like shorts and t-shirt weather with it 43 and raining out.
Yes, it absolutely does.
So we really appreciate you coming to Portland. And I was wondering if you could just, first of all, give us an overview of Amazon, because I'll bet everybody here in this room buys something or has bought something from Amazon, but we don't know much about the company itself. So if you could just give us a little background on what Amazon is up to these days.
Absolutely. So currently Amazon has about 2,000 buildings worldwide and 900,000 employees. Out of those 900,000 employees, we have about 2,600 environmental health and safety professionals and 250 sustainability professionals. So that's an unprecedented growth from one fulfillment center in 1997 until now.
And you said 900,000 employees?
Yes.
How long have you been with the company?
It'll be 4 years next month.
And how many were at the company when you started 4 years ago?
180,000.
So in 4 years, 800,000 people, I can do math a little bit, you know. They said there wouldn't be any math being a lawyer, but they're wrong. But 800,000 employees in that short a period of time?
Yes, it's unprecedented.
That is phenomenal. So what kind of things do you do as the global affairs person?
So we're really responsible for, identifying risk and evaluating risk so that we can implement the proper risk controls. So, and before I kind of get into that, I can talk a little bit more about the businesses that we operate at Amazon, because a lot of people are always impressed when they find out that we do more than just distribution and warehousing. So we typically, our process starts with our fulfillment centers. And these fulfillment centers can be specialized. So they can specialize in large products that we call non-sort fulfillment centers. They can specialize in small products that we call sortable, or the ones with robots, we say Amazon Robotics Sortable. We also have fulfillment centers that specialize in foods. So if you've ever heard of Prime Now or Amazon Fresh. So once these orders are filled, they go from a fulfillment center to our middle mile, which we call a sort center. And in the sort center, the primary focus is categorizing products by zip code. And then from there, they can either be delivered to the customer via a third party, or they can go through our last mile operations, which is called a delivery station. And then from a delivery station, go directly to the customer in an Amazon branded truck. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen the Prime vans that we have now, the gray vans. That's a big initiative of our company right now, is delivering the products directly. And we don't depend on third parties as much as we once did. In addition to the fulfillment operations, we also have a little bit of manufacturing. So we have a book binding and printing business called Make on Demand, where if you order a book on Amazon.com, we actually print the book, bind it, and distribute it through our logistics network. We also have a business called Merch by Amazon that makes customized T-shirts. So they, based on the design you want, they can determine if there's been a patent or copyright associated with it, and then they can make this T-shirt. We also do the same thing for pop sockets and phone cases. And then we have a retail business. So you probably, depending on what city you're in, you probably have seen Amazon bookstores. We have also another brick and mortar store called Amazon 4-Star, where we highlight the most popular products on Amazon.com. And then we have a convenience store, cashierless convenience store operations called Amazon Go. And oh, by the way, did I forget to mention that we also own Whole Foods?
Oh, you have this little grocery store,
yes.
Don't you? Yeah. I've heard about that. Well, so that's an incredibly diverse business that Amazon has. How has it affected the work that you do in the environmental space and with regulatory agencies?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we have found out at Amazon is a lot of regulatory agencies don't know exactly what we do. So in the beginning, when I first got there, we were having inspections, and there wasn't really a focus. It was just regulators really wanted to know what to do. And at the time, we didn't really have a process to engage with regulators or government officials as actively as we do now. So as of this year, what we've started doing through our public policy team is we've started actively hosting government officials on tours in our buildings. And year to date, we've hosted over 1,000 federal, state, and locally elected officials, because we feel like if they understand what we're doing, that can help them in their rulemaking and help us understand where there are potential risks or impacts to the environment.
So global is in your title. So that means you're not only dealing with 50 state regulators and a U.S. federal regulator, but you're dealing with regulators around the world. How do you do that?
That is another great question. So one of the things that I'm really big on is you need to understand your customer. And so before we do work internationally, we really like to understand the culture. We want to understand what the norms are. Even though we're this progressive company, we still want to operate within a framework that's going to make us successful. And we understand that by being successful, we need regulators to approve what we're doing. Case in point is we were starting up this operation, a Merch by Amazon operation in Poland, and our businesses always have these aggressive timelines because they don't understand the regulatory aspect of what they're doing. All they know is, hey, there's a business opportunity. We want to get in here and take advantage of it. And the culture over in Poland is you don't proactively go and meet with regulatory agencies. The rules are the rules, their timelines are the timelines, and there's nothing that you can say or do that's going to impact that. But me and my boss said, hey, you know what? Just give us an opportunity. We really feel that we can go over there, we can help the business meet their timeline, and we can ensure that the project is launched successfully on the timeline that is important, within our business model. So I went over and I met with the governor of Poland, and it just happened to be an election year. Now, we didn't know this part of it at the time. And so, anytime you want to get a major source air permit in Poland, it's a 1-year minimum. And our timeline was around 7 months. So we really needed to work with the people that were going to make the decisions on expediting that. And one of the things that we were able to negotiate is because it was an election year, the governor saw where he could take advantage of approving this project and also hosting his one of his campaign events at this operation. So we were able to successfully negotiate, the business timeline because, there was an opportunity also for the governor to show that he brought jobs into Poland. And so he helped us meet that timeline. But there was one more caveat. We had to meet with the city of Sosnowiec, Poland, and there the mayor was the person that we had to engage with. And so we met with him and his leadership team. And they were very happy about us choosing Poland to bring jobs in, and generate revenue for the economy there. So to make a long story short, we were able to cut that timeline from 1 year to 7 months, and we launched the building, and it's currently operating and doing very well.
So you had some local skepticism within the company about you guys parachuting in. What kind of strategies did you use to both get your team comfortable and that you used with the government officials?
Yeah, so what we did is we just really wanted to understand what the officials or what could be what is considered to be normal in that culture. Mm-hmm. So over there, especially in that part of Europe, whenever you talk to a government official, you have to be dressed up really nicely. At Amazon, if anybody knows anything about the Amazon culture, a pair of jeans and a T-shirt is considered nice. So, we had to put on a suit and a tie, and we had to go over there, and, you wait on them to, lead you in. You don't immediately take a seat until they get into the conference room, and they, acknowledge that, your presence and that you can sit down. So it's just kind of understand the cultural norms and feeding off of that to be able to, get to a place where we can talk about what our concerns and our issues are to be able to come up with an acceptable solution.
And this is something you do no matter what country. You try to learn the culture.
Yes, we try to learn the culture, and we operate all over the whole world. So when I go to Japan, when I've gone to China, when I've gone to other parts of Europe, And even within North America, when you go to Mexico and Canada, the cultures are even different. So it's just understanding what's acceptable and then using that to your benefit.
And you also try to come up with some phrases in the local language.
Yes, so on my phone right now, I have all of the various scripts, like the Spanish script, the French script, downloaded because I try to learn some of the language. At a minimum, I want to be able to say hello and goodbye and thank you in the native language. So I learned how to do that very well in Poland. Mm-hmm. And the way you acknowledge or tell somebody hello in Poland is you say dzień dobry.
Very good. And so how do you think that helps? What does that do for you when you're talking with somebody in a foreign country? How does that break the ice?
It breaks the ice because it shows them that you're making an attempt to come in and not change anything but adopt what is normal in that country. So, like I said, I know we're progressive, but we are smart enough to also know that you have to operate within a certain framework if you're going to be successful long term. And we want to be a good business partner, a good responsible neighbor, and we want to work with the communities and the countries that we operate in to make sure that we're always doing things the right way.
So one of the things that is a motivating factor for all of Amazon, but I'm assuming for your business is what you do, are the 14 leadership principles. Can you just talk about what those are?
Yeah, so everything we do in Amazon starts with our 14 leadership principles, and in particularly, one of the first leadership principles is customer obsession. So, they always say in Amazon, we're the most customer-centric company in the world. So everything we do starts with the customer. If we're working on a project or if you have consultants working on a project and that project doesn't benefit the customer, you need to recalibrate the work you're doing. So that's what you learn day one coming into Amazon is everything starts with customer obsession. Additional to that, we have other leadership principles that deal with ownership, that deal with insisting on the highest standards, thinking big. We need to be very strategic. If you're going to be a company that innovates and tries new things, you have to be very strategic and not be afraid to fail. And then we also have everything in Amazon has to be done at lightning speed. So we have a leadership principle called bias for action. So, all these 14 leadership principles, and we have them posted in our booth, all together has helped shape Amazon into who we are today and will continue to help shape what we're going to be in the future.
So one of the leadership principles that I thought was really interesting because it seems to be somewhat contradictory, but when you read through it makes sense. It's called have backbone, disagree, and commit. Those could be mutually exclusive at some times, but how does that work at Amazon?
That is the one leadership principle most people coming in when we hire people externally struggle with. Because your legacy, most legacy companies, if you disagree with your boss, and no matter if you're diplomatic or not, that can be what's called a CLM, a career limiting move. At Amazon, it's something that they truly want you to exemplify. So when you go up to your manager, you're expected to play devil's advocate on things, and you're expected to challenge them, or you're expected to challenge the team. So it's not seen as a positive when you just kind of say yes, we'll do this. When you have concerns, you got to voice those concerns. You got to express your logic behind why you have those concerns. And then a lot of times you'll be shocked at how of a positive that is and how that can help you with your trajectory within the company.
What's the benefit, though, of the disagree and commit? What does that avoid when you have that kind of concept? So
that there's no bitter feelings or harsh feelings towards one another. At the end of the day, we disagreed, but we're going to commit and we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. We're going to work on it. We're going to give it 100% effort through all aspects of a project or an initiative. And guess what? If we fail, we know we won't do it that way again. We'll come and we'll recalibrate and we'll work on another initiative to try to accomplish the same goal. So that's the one thing that I really admire about Amazon is most other companies I've been at, and if you read my bio, you've seen I've worked in the food and beverage industry at PepsiCo. I've also worked in the oil and gas industry for Sunoco, as well as a chemical company called Roman Haas. And none of those companies would I ever be able to do that. I wouldn't have been there as long as I was if I would have had that perspective.
One of the other principles that I thought was interesting is called earn trust. And then the description for it is listen attentively, speak candidly, treat others respectfully, vocally self-critical even when doing so is awkward or embarrassing. And then this was the one that got me. Don't believe their or their team's body odor smells of perfume.
Right.
That's a really interesting concept for a major corporation like Amazon. Can you just describe how that plays out in what you do?
Yeah, so a lot of the things we do, we have to do by using our influencing skills. In order to influence people, you got to get to know them. So if I'm coming in asking you to do something, but yet I don't know you, you don't know me, the likelihood of me being successful in what I'm trying to get you to do is not going to be very high. Mm-hmm. But if I come in and I make an attempt to get to know you, I meet you on a level playing ground. For example, one of the strategies I use, and I tell the people on my team all the time, is when they're having problems, you know what, go and take so-and-so to lunch. Go take them to dinner. Get them outside of the four walls of the workplace and really get to know who they are, what piques their interests, and then feed off of that. And you'll be shocked at how successful you will be once you do that. So that's what we mean by earning trust, is really utilizing the relationship and your influential skills to come to an agreement on what needs to be done so that we can all be successful.
So that's interesting that you're encouraging people to get together personally for lunches or coffee or whatever. You're not recommending that they text or look at each other's Facebook and like things as building a relationship.
Yes, that is correct. I know for this, I forget what this generation is called. I don't know if it's the Z or whatever generation, but yes. So that's something that the campus hires that we bring in struggle with, because the only way I wouldn't say the only way, but one of the primary ways they communicate is through texting. Right. And we have an internal messaging system called Amazon Chime, and so usually when I get a chime, I pretty much know what generation they're from.
So you being the global leader, you got to be always on, 24/7. How do you deal with that?
Yes. So I live in Minneapolis, which is in the Central Time Zone, and coming here, when I woke up this morning, it was 4 a.m. So that's typically how my day goes. And I wake up, I know I'm going to be bombarded with emails from Europe. Throughout the day, I'm bombarded from emails in North America, and before I go to bed at night, it's hard to sleep because that's when the Asia Pac operations bombard you with emails with several questions, and we have teams spread throughout. But one of the big things at Amazon is they always want to copy the team lead for visibility, just to make sure we know what's going on, and if we see something that doesn't seem right, we can kind of intervene. But it is a full day. So one of the things I've learned, and this was at the help of the urging of my boss, is when I go to sleep, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So the only thing that will come through is a phone call. So I always tell people when I'm traveling, if you can't get me through a text message or through an email, call me, because my phone will work if you call. But it is challenging because with a global, being at a global company, it's nonstop. So we have a Thanksgiving holiday. So one of the people that works for me in Asia says, am I supposed to cancel our one-on-one, because we meet every Thursday? And I'm said, yeah, this is a holiday here, So you have to remember to inform people when you're having holidays, because when you're in a global role, not everyone has the Thanksgiving holiday, for example.
Sure. Let's switch gears for a minute or two and talk about some of the regulatory challenges that you face in what you do. A lot of the rules are written for manufacturers, and how does Amazon work with those rules?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things that we've seen is as I mentioned earlier, regulators don't always know what we do at Amazon. So when we do have regulatory inspections, a lot of times the regulators will come in and they make assumptions, because at a company that's been around a long time and has doesn't have like a portfolio like we have with millions of items that we sell. They're, for example, on the waste side of things, their waste streams are pretty standardized. So, if they've sampled it once, they can classify it and they know what it is. For Amazon, we don't have that luxury. So we can't classify waste, and if we're selling the same thing and it becomes a waste, then we can use that same classification. However, like I said, we have millions of items, and it's very difficult to perform a classification in short order. So our process for classifying waste first starts with, can we repurpose it? Can we sell it on a warehouse deals website? And if that is not an option, we look at, can we donate it? And then lastly, if we can't donate it, then we have to classify it as a waste. But a lot of times regulators come in and they want to say, well, that's satellite accumulation. And we're saying, no, it's called product awaiting determination because it's still a product. We have not declared it a waste yet. It has not met the definition of a solid waste. So we have to explain that to regulators, and after some back and forth, they get it. But, a misunderstanding of how to apply certain rules is a challenge sometimes.
So given your size, Amazon size, former football player, given the size of Amazon, do you feel like the company at times has a target on its back with regulators?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, anytime you've been with a company that has seen the kind of growth we have, I expect it. And I've forewarned our people in Europe and in Asia that, just get ready. The rules are pretty much the same worldwide. You can go to, India, you can go to the UAE. They have very similar rules that we do in the United States and in Canada and in Mexico. A lot of times they don't have the budget for enforcement like a lot of the agencies here do. Mm-hmm. But when you're the biggest game in town, guess what? People are going to show up. Yep. And we are starting to see that across the world. So, we really are trying to embrace that aspect. And so we are starting to proactively work with regulatory agencies. A good example is some work we did through our public policy team with the South Coast Air Quality Management District in Southern California. Because they're looking to reduce emissions from mobile sources. And so they wanted to partner with us on a few things, and so we engaged with them because we have understood now that by being proactive and working with agencies, they can help understand our operations, can help us understand and make better decisions internally, as well as reduce environmental impact at the same time.
And you said you have 2,000 fulfillment centers. How do you handle all of the permits, and particularly I think about stormwater permits because that's a big deal out here? That's got to be a nightmare.
Oh, it is. The good news is outside of the United States, we typically don't need stormwater permits for the work we're doing, but we have the same program because you still have to protect the environment. And that's the way the rules read outside of the United States, even in Canada. So if you perform an industrial activity, and so some of the industrial activities we perform in our yards is, maintenance, mobile fueling, and vehicle washing of our trucks. Because it makes sense for us and it helps optimize getting packages to our customers if we do that work while the trucks are idle. So when they're idle, that's usually in the evening or the night times. So when you're performing such activities in the United States, it says, under our SIT code, we need to have a, NIPID stormwater permit. And so currently in the United States alone, we have over 260 stormwater permits. And what we've done is we have developed a template for how we're going to execute best management practices. And we have developed or identified people to be part of our stormwater pollution prevention teams. And we train those individuals, and then we execute and we track their execution through our environmental management information system, where we load all the conditions of the permit and all the tasks that we need them to perform to ensure that we are adequately assessing how effective our best management practices are. Outside of the United States, as well as in Canada and in Europe, where we perform these activities, we just have to have best management practices implemented. And as long as we can prove that those best management practices are effective, then the regulatory agencies, don't have any concerns.
Given that we have a whole track here throughout the conference on sustainability, that's a big topic of interest. Can you just talk a little bit about what Amazon is doing in the sustainability sector?
That is another good question. So recently, back in September, we announced our 2040 climate pledge, which is something we're really proud of at Amazon. So what that means is we're essentially going to meet the Paris climate deal 10 years early. And so what that is driving internally is we have already, and we announced this back in September as well, we have already put an order in for 100,000 fully electric vehicles that we're going to deploy around the world. We are investing in $100 million in reforestation projects. So we want to start to plant trees now to reduce the carbon from the atmosphere and make sure that we can, accomplish our net zero goals. And then we've also launched a transparency website where our customers and just the general public can go and see the progress that we're making on those 2040 goals. So we're really proud of that, and that was a big, big deal for us. Me and the team we were over in France when we announced that, and so that was a really big deal. We happened to be in the country where this deal originated when we announced it. So wow. I don't think you could have had better timing.
That's great. So there's a room full of consultants here, and some of my best friends are consultants. But this is a golden opportunity for you to tell consultants 3 things that you really think a consultant should know about in dealing with Amazon, and if it has a broader application, since you have a pretty broad background, 3 things that you can think of that would be really important for consultants to know about.
Yeah, so the 3 things that I think would be really important and that we really need from our consultants is the first and foremost, we look at consultants as business partners. You heard me talk about the 14 leadership principles. So we expect our consultants to exemplify those same leadership principles at all times. Additionally, we really would like our consultants to be timely with all projects without sacrificing quality. Whenever we find mistakes, whenever we have to review and find mistakes, it's very frustrating because of this fast-paced environment we operate in. Consultants also need to understand that fast-paced environment, and they need to be adaptable because, things change often and frequently at Amazon. And so they need to be able to adapt and make sure that at the end of the day that the project meets the scope of work and the attendant audience.
And on the flip side of that, are there 3 things that bug you about some practices of consultants? I'm just helping you guys.
Yes, there are 3 things as well.
Only 3?
Right. Well, there's multiple, but I can tell you about 3 things that we really don't like consultants to do. The first is consultants really need to know their audience. Don't assume the skill set of the people that are going to be executing the work or the projects that you're completing. We have novice level people in our buildings. And, although my team has a lot of senior people, we don't have that luxury in the field. So they need to know their audience. They need to keep that in mind. Additionally, another thing that really is frustrating for us is when a consultant identifies gaps or issues and when they don't identify potential solutions. So anytime there's an issue, we need to be talking about solutions. And then the last thing is we don't want consultants to operate in a vacuum. They need to communicate on a regular basis, especially if there's delays in the timeline that we agreed to. Because at the end of the day, if they're successful what they do, we're successful and vice versa.
Those are great suggestions, I think, not just for Amazon, but for just about any company that we as a lawyer or consultant works with. So thank you for that. What do you see your opportunities, environmentally speaking, coming up?
Well, in being vocally self-critical, we just talked about earning trust. I want to earn trust with this group here. We have some opportunities on how to look at reducing our waste that we generate. Mm-hmm. We have, like I said, millions of items that we sell. And when these items are returned, and in some cases we get items that are returned that we don't even sell, that creates challenges within itself. We've actually had some controlled substances come in. If anybody knows anything about controlled substances, you need a permit to even deal with them. Right. So we've had to call the DEA in some of our buildings just because we can't operate it. And when they call us, we say, look, don't touch that, until we get the DEA in, and we usually call the DEA or the police department, and they come and look at it and pick it up. But, I think there's some opportunities with really looking at the circular economy and embedding that in our process for the way we manage products that, for whatever reason can't be sold or get returned. I think we have an opportunity also to look at a take-back program. So if we go and sell your refrigerator, we need to be able to have a process by taking your old refrigerator back. Because what you find is a lot of times people will abandon these, somehow get in the back of their pickup truck, and next thing you know, it's on the side of the road. And some countries have legislated extended producer responsibility, where we're obligated to do that. So we know there's regulations in some countries, so we really need to be proactive and look at, opportunities for taking these things back and, just absorbing that cost into our operations.
And how about packaging? I mean, everything comes in an Amazon box.
Yes, we need to. We've made a lot of progress on packaging, but we still have a long way to go. So we have smart packaging now. So not everything you order comes in a cardboard box. You probably get some bubble wrap packaging that's customized to the size of what you ordered. We started doing that this year. Additionally, we're working with our vendors upstream, even on their packaging. They send us, these products in all of this cardboard and reinforced cardboard and even a lot of plastic. So we're working with them as well to try to help because, once we receive it, we have to do something with it. And it's really imperative that we work upstream as well.
Anything else you'd like to share with us this afternoon in parting thoughts?
Yeah, so as a plug, we have a booth here. And we have several jobs open, so we would love for you to come by and talk with us.
Well, I want to thank you very much for your time, for being able to put your phone on silent for the 35 minutes. I'm sure you've got 100 or so emails that are requiring your attention, and we're really grateful for you to take the time to come talk to us. We're really grateful for Amazon, for the whole team being here, and for their support of NABC in this conference. And so everybody, please give Kevin and Amazon a big hand.
Thank you.